Moose is growling, not at me, but at something I can't see. We're huddled in the hall closet, knees pressed to each other, the kind of darkness that feels like it's swallowing everything. The power's been out for hours. Rain's battering. The roof so hard it sounds like a war drum. But none of that explains why Moose, my gentle graying giant, is trembling. His lip curled, that deep, guttural sound rumbling from somewhere deep inside him, and I've never heard him growl like this before, not in all the years he's been by my side, not even the time that Coyote got into our backyard, not even when I broke my arm and screamed until I blacked out. This is different. This growl is like he's warning something not of this world. I want to ask him what he sees, what he smells, but I know better. I don't even breathe too loudly. My name's Eli. I'm 17, and my dog, Moose, has been with me longer than I can remember, literally. My earliest memory isn't of my mom, or a toy, or even the inside of my crib. It's waking up to find Moose's massive head resting right beside mine, his wet nose inches from my cheek, watching me like a second mother. He's not just a dog. He's never been just a dog. My dad died in a car accident when I was 6 months old. Mom told me later that Moose had been my dad's last gift, a 6-week-old Newfoundland Great Dane mix from some litter out in the hills. My dad never even got to see the puppy grow. Mom, well, she's had it rough. Migraines that lock her in her room for days. Silence stretching through the house like a fog. She loves me, I know, but she's always seemed distant, like she's only here halfway. So it was Moose who filled in the gaps. Moose who patted beside me when I took my first steps, who leaned against my legs when I learned to walk, who sat outside the bathroom door when I got my first stomach flu and didn't leave until I stopped throwing up. When I was 5, I fell into a creek and couldn't get out. Moose leapt in and pulled me out by my shirt like I was one of his own puppies. When I was 9, I broke my arm falling off a tree. Moose cried louder than I did. His howls echoed off the trees until Mom finally found me. And when I had pneumonia at 11 and was in the hospital for a week, Moose refused to eat. Not a single bite. The vet had to come give him fluids. I didn't just grow up with him. I grew around him. He was gravity, my axis, the constant pull keeping me together. Time has a way of slipping by when you're measuring it in fur turning gray, and paws growing stiff. These days, Moose sleeps more than he runs. His joints pop when he climbs stairs. His muzzle is silvered, but his eyes still track me with that same impossible devotion. Which is why what happened 2 nights ago shook me more than I could admit. It started small, stupid even. I'd gone to bed late after playing music in the garage. Nothing loud, just fiddling with chords on Dad's old acoustic. When I came in, Moose was lying in the hallway, his head on his paws. "Come on, buddy," I whispered. I patted my thigh. "Let's go." He didn't move. I frowned. Maybe his hips were acting up again. I left the door open and went inside, expecting him to follow in a minute or two. He didn't. Instead, he stood up, slowly, and walked to my bedroom doorway. He sniffed, growled low in his throat. Then he sat. Just sat, and stared at the door frame. I chuckled nervously. "What? Is it haunted?" He didn't respond, obviously, but his ears were low, his hackles stiff, his gaze fixed just past me. I turned to look. Nothing there, just my bed, my desk, my closet, everything as it always was. So I shut the door, got undressed, climbed into bed. Moose started growling again, louder this time, not aggressive, but warning. I opened the door. He stopped. That was the first night. The next morning, I found scratch marks inside my closet door. 3 deep gouges, fresh. They weren't there the day before. I told myself it was old damage. Maybe I just hadn't noticed. Maybe Moose did it once during a thunderstorm, years ago, but the door had been closed all night, and Moose hadn't even come in. I didn't tell Mom. She was having one of her bad days. Curtains drawn, lights off, her door cracked open with that smell of lavender oil and menthol that always hangs in the air when she's in bed. She wouldn't want to hear about closet scratches or dogs acting weird. I tried to forget it. Tried to push the thought out of my mind, but I couldn't. Because last night, Moose did something he hasn't done in years. He jumped on my bed. It was after midnight. I was half asleep, drifting, and suddenly there was a massive thump, a rush of air, and then the weight of him pressed against my legs. I jolted upright. "Moose?" He didn't look at me. He was facing the closet. Ears alert, body tense. He was staring. The door was closed, but he stared at it like it was open, and something was looking back at him. "Moose," I whispered. "What is it?" He didn't growl, but I could feel him shaking. Not violently, but enough that the bed trembled with him. I swung my legs over and stood up, heart in my throat. I hesitated. Then I opened the closet door. Nothing, just old hoodies, shoes, a shoebox of drawings I did when I was 7, my guitar case, my childhood blanket, folded neatly on the top shelf. Except it wasn't just folded. It was warm, like someone had been holding it, and I haven't touched that blanket in 10 years. I turned back to Moose. He hadn't moved. "Did you put this here?" He blinked at me. And in that moment, I had a memory, sharp and sudden, of being 3 or 4 years old. Crying. Lost in the house. It was dark. I was cold. And Moose bringing me that same blanket, held gently in his teeth. Like he was doing now. Like he was trying to tell me something was coming. Something I needed to hide from. I stood there for a long time, the blanket in my hands, Moose's eyes watching the shadows, and a cold draft crawling along my spine. I didn't sleep much that night. This morning, I checked the closet again. The scratches were still there. The blanket was on the floor, like I dropped it and forgot. Mom hasn't left her room. Moose hasn't left my side. And right now, with the storm howling outside and the power gone, we're back in that closet, me and Moose is growling again. Moose has started barking at the walls. Not the windows, not the door, the actual walls. He'll stand in the hallway, especially the one that leads to my room, and just stare. Sometimes it's low, growling murmurs like he's trying to threaten, something into staying put. Other times it's full-on barking, sharp and panicked and violent, the kind of barking that leaves his throat hoarse the next day. Last night, he refused to enter the hallway at all. He just stood at the mouth of it, ears down, tail low, whimpering. When I tried to tug his collar gently, he dug in his paws like I was leading him off a cliff. I had to sleep on the couch. It's not just that, though. He started digging, obsessively, always at night. The backyard has 3 deep holes now, all clustered near the base of the old oak tree. Dirt sprayed everywhere, his paws raw. I try to stop him, but the moment I turn my back, he's back out there, scratching like something's underneath. When I ask him what he's doing, I know he can't answer, but I ask anyway. He just whines. He looks guilty, or afraid. I've started having dreams, or nightmares, I guess. Always the same. I'm in my room, in bed. I wake up. There's a sound. Whispers, maybe, or breathing, coming from the closet. I turn to look, and the door is just slightly open. Not wide, just an inch. Enough. Enough for something to be watching me. But I never see what it is. I always wake up with Moose's nose pressed to my cheek, whining softly like he's trying to wake me up before something else does. The house feels wrong now, like it's holding its breath. The air is cold, even though it's mid-July. There's a smell in the hallway. Sour, faint but persistent, like old copper or rotting apples. Mom says she doesn't smell anything, but I'm not sure she even notices anymore. She's locked in her room again. I hear her pacing sometimes, talking to herself. This afternoon, I was digging through some old boxes in the garage looking for a photo album or something, just to see if Moose has always been this way. I found a box labeled Eli 03YS. Inside were clothes, some hospital tags, a few baby books, and a VHS tape. Label, First Steps, 2009. We still have an old VCR in the living room. Moose and I sat down and popped the tape in. It starts, normal enough. Me, a chubby toddler, waddling across the room in footy pajamas, giggling. Mom behind the camera, her voice soft, encouraging. Moose is in the corner, watching, always watching. Then I walk toward the closet, the one in my room. Moose's ears go up. I toddle forward, hand outstretched for the door, and Moose charges across the room and wedges himself between me and the closet. He growls. It's the same growl from the other night. I laughed, watching it. You were always on patrol, huh? But when I rewound the tape just before Moose lunges, there's a frame. Just one. Barely a flicker. But enough. Behind the closet. Door. There's a figure. Not Mom. Not me. Something darker. Blurred. Like it wasn't part of the recording. It's there, one frame. And then gone. I paused it. Played it back over and over. Tried to tell myself it was a shadow. Or a glitch. Or anything else. But it wasn't. Moose started whining the second it showed up on screen. I turned off the TV. Later that night, I found one of Mom's old journals. EQ used to write obsessively, at least until I turned 10 or 11. Most of it's about me. What I ate, when I walked, what songs I liked. But as I flipped through, things changed. The entries got shorter, choppier, repetitive. And then, one page, near the back, was mostly blank, except for one line, circled 3 times. Moose keeps standing guard. Maybe he sees what I refuse to. That line hit me harder than I expected. I don't know if she was talking about burglars. Or something else. The next day, I started noticing more physical things. Scratches. Not just on the closet door, but under my bed. Long, uneven gouges in the wood, like something had been trying to climb up from underneath. Dust was disturbed. Tiny splinters scattered like something had scurried. And then I found the panel. It was behind the wallpaper in my closet. I noticed the paper bubbling in. One corner, peeled it back expecting old drywall, but no, it was a metal panel. Rusted and sealed. At first, I thought it was an old vent. But it didn't connect to anything. No screws, no bolts, just sealed, and on it, faint marks, etched into the metal, tally marks. Lots of them. Groups of 5. I counted 32. When I reached out to touch it, Moose exploded. He slammed into me, barked so loudly it made my ears ring. He bit the cuff of my sleeve and dragged me out of the closet. Not roughly, but forcefully, urgently. He stood in the doorway, blocking it, hackles raised, growling deep. I didn't try again. Something told me I wasn't supposed to open that panel. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about those tally marks, about the video, about the journal, about how Moose has always blocked that closet. Why? Why didn't I notice until now? I pulled out a folder of old drawings I made when I was a kid. The ones Mom kept, most were normal. Me and Moose. Me with my mom. Rainbows. Trucks. Stars. Then, one that chilled me. Crayon on paper. Childishly drawn. It shows me. Moose. And a third figure. Drawn in black, completely scribbled out. No face, long arms, standing in the closet. The drawing was labeled in big, uneven letters. Moose. Me, the other man. I just stared at it. I must have been 4 or 5 when I drew it. and I remembered none of it. I showed it to Mom. She went pale. "I thought I threw that out," she whispered, and then she walked away, locking her bedroom door behind her. I didn't try to talk to her again. That night, everything came to a head. I was asleep in my bed. Moose was on the floor, as always. It was quiet, until it wasn't. I woke to him barking, loud, desperate, frenzied. He leapt onto my bed and started pawing at me, hard, barking in my face, pushing me, trying to move me. "Moose, what? What is it?" He jumped down and barked at the door, then back at me. He wanted me out. I grabbed my phone for a light, stood up, followed him into the hallway, and just as I stepped out, slam. The closet door shut behind me. I didn't touch it. Neither did Moose, and then, a second later, every light in the house went out. Total blackness. Moose pressed against my leg, growling, so loud it sounded like thunder in my bones, and from inside the room, from behind that door, I swear to God, I heard breathing. I couldn't sleep after the closet door slammed shut. I sat on the floor with Moose for hours. No lights, just his warm body pressed against me, his ears twitching at every creak of the house. I kept thinking about the drawing, the video, the tally marks, and the breathing. The house felt alive, or worse, inhabited. The next morning, I didn't bother pretending everything was normal. I didn't make breakfast. I didn't go for a run. I didn't check my email. I grabbed a crowbar from the garage, and I started with the closet. The metal panel came off with more force than I expected. Beneath it was an empty pocket of wall space. Hollow, as if it had been built intentionally to conceal something. I widened the hole. Inside was a small compartment. Dark, stale air. Smelled like dust and rust and something else I didn't want to name. I reached in, my hand closed around something small. Teeth. Tiny. Human. Baby teeth, a handful of them. Wrapped in a crumbling scrap of cloth. There was more. A metal tag, rusted. Dog tags. One of them read, Moose, property of E. Hawkins. That was my last name, but I never had tags made for Moose. Ever. Then I pulled out a folded piece of paper. E.G. Child's drawing. My style. I could tell by the way I drew hands. Little clawed shapes like I hadn't decided on fingers yet. It was Moose again. Me. And something else. Moose had red smeared across his face. Crayon, but intentionally done. The red dripping from his mouth. There were lines around the other figure. Sharp, angry strokes. The whole scene looked like it was shaking. There was no label this time. Just a single black X scrawled over the third. Figure's eyes. At the bottom of the compartment, something fluttered loose. A newspaper clipping. Yellowed. Torn. Local. Child missing. Hawkins family requests. Privacy. There was no photo. Just the headline and part of the article. Eleanor Hawkins, 28, reported one of her twin boys missing in what she described as a sleepwalking incident that left no sign of forced entry. Twins? I read the line again. One of her twin boys. I didn't have a twin. Did I? I found Mom in the kitchen. She was making tea, like nothing had happened, like the house wasn't full of teeth and drawings and growling dogs. I dropped the clipping in front of her. She froze, then said, without looking up, "Where did you find that?" "In the wall," I said. "Behind the closet." She sat down slowly, hands trembling. For a moment I thought she'd lie, spin something, say it was a mistake, a cousin, a neighbor, anything, but she didn't. She whispered, "His name was Isaac." My heart thudded once, hard. "I had twins," she continued. "You and Isaac. You were born early. I was alone by then. Your father had left during the pregnancy. I wasn't ready." She stared at the steam rising from her cup, like she was watching a memory lift off the surface. Isaac was the quiet one. Never cried, slept all the time. You were always sick. I was exhausted. Some days I couldn't tell what was real. I waited. Then I asked, "What happened to him?" She was silent for a long time. Then, "I don't know." That made something cold coil in my chest. "How can you not know?" She looked up. Her eyes were bloodshot. One night, I woke up, and he was gone. No open windows. No broken doors. Moose was going insane. Barking. Growling. He kept circling Isaac's crib. I thought he was just being aggressive. I locked him outside. She paused. Her voice cracked. I never saw Isaac again. I wanted to yell, to demand why she'd never told me. But something about the way she sat, so small, so broken, held me back. I told the police. But no one believed me. They said postpartum hallucinations weren't uncommon, that maybe I'd imagined him. Or worse. Her hands gripped the edge of the table like it was the only thing keeping her tethered. My migraine started after that. I'd black out. I'd forget whole hours, days. Sometimes I'd dream he was still in the house, crying, from the closet. Moose padded into the room. He sat by my chair, quiet, watchful. I reached down and rested my hand on his back. "He's been guarding me," I said softly and nodded. "Ever since you could crawl. He'd sleep in front of your crib, growl if anyone got too close, even me. I didn't know what to do with any of it. My brother, my twin, Isaac. Gone before I could ever know him. And yet, part of me had known. The drawings, the feelings, the dreams. Was he really gone, or just changed? I started to believe something else was in this house. Still here, still watching. Moose had known all along. That night I sat on the floor outside my bedroom closet, flashlight in one hand, the teeth in the other. Moose curled up beside me, his body pressed against the door. He didn't bark anymore. He just stared. Still. Heavy. I whispered, "Is he still in there?" Moose didn't react, but I saw his ears twitch. Barely. There was something beneath the floorboards. Something I hadn't checked. I pried up the edges, slowly, careful not to make too much noise, and I found it. A seam, a square outline in the boards. I wedged the crowbar in, pulled, a trap door. Beneath it, dirt and a tunnel. Narrow, just wide enough for me to crawl through. The air down there smelled like old stone and rust, damp earth. Time. Moose stood at the entrance, stiff, tail straight. He didn't want me to go, but when I started crawling in, he followed. His head brushed my heels, always behind me, always guarding. We went into the dark. The tunnel was longer than I expected. At first, I thought it might lead to an old root cellar, but it sloped down, angled, not meant for convenience. The walls were rough. I scratched my elbow trying to maneuver. At some point I heard something ahead, a shuffle, a breath. I froze. Moose growled behind me, low, a warning. I turned my flashlight forward, and the tunnel opened into a chamber. Dirt walls. No furniture. Just scattered things, an old rattle, a blanket, a mirror broken down the middle and scratched into the dirt walls. Tallies, hundreds, thousands, etched over and over and over. Moose refused to enter at first. He just stood at the edge, whining. Then he stepped in, his body tense, nose to the ground. I didn't know what I expected. A skeleton? A shrine? But what I found was worse. A presence. It was like the air itself recoiled when I stepped into the space, like I wasn't supposed to be there. And then I heard it, a whisper, faint but clear. Eli. It came from the broken mirror. I spun. Light. Trembling. Moose started barking, screaming at the glass, and for just a second I saw a reflection. Not mine. A boy, my face, but pale, hollow-eyed, standing in the corner behind me. Then the glass cracked, spiderwebbed in silence. I turned. No one was there. We crawled back up, gasping. Back into my room, back into the light. Moose collapsed at the foot of the bed, exhausted. He didn't move for an hour. I laid next to him, hand on his chest. I think he was trying to come back, I whispered. Moose opened one eye. And you kept him away. His tail thumped once. Weak. He's still here, I said. But we're going to finish this. Together. Moose let out a deep sigh, and I swore, for the first time in days. He looked at peace. For a moment. Then something creaked behind me. The closet door. It was ajar, and just for a heartbeat I saw a hand, pale and small, curl back into the dark. I couldn't stop shaking, even after the mirror cracked, even after the whisper stopped echoing in my head. Moose didn't leave my side. For hours, we sat outside the closet, me staring at the trap door, Moose watching me. Not the door. Not the tunnel. He was waiting for me to decide. So I did. At sunrise, I packed a flashlight, a coil of rope, and a photo of me and Moose from when I was a toddler. I tucked it in my shirt like armor. Then I opened the trap door again. Moose didn't need prompting. He stepped in first this time. We descended. The tunnel felt different now. Heavier. The air was colder. The walls damp. The scent, earth, metal, and something like mildew-soaked fabric, got stronger with every step. The tunnel twisted this time. More than before. It didn't feel like we were going to the same place. Instead of a chamber, the walls grew narrower, closer, and began to slope downward, deeper than any root cellar should go. Then I saw them. Scrawls. Childlike handwriting etched into the dirt. Dozens. Hundreds. All repeating the same words. Don't close the door. Don't leave me. Eli, wait. Some of them were written backward. Others were scratched over each other until they became unreadable. I shone my light further ahead. The tunnel opened into a final room. At the far end stood something that froze me in place. A mirror, but not quite. It wasn't reflective like glass. It rippled, dark, like a pool of water frozen upright. On its surface, handprints, small, child-sized, all over, and in the center, two identical prints side by side. Mine. Moose growled behind me. Then, I heard it. A child's voice, high, sweet, giggling. Brother. The air dropped 10 degrees in a breath. The flashlight flickered. Then I saw him. At first, just a shape inside the mirror. A silhouette. It leaned forward, pushed against the surface, and slipped through. The figure that stepped out had my face. But it wasn't me. Not exactly. His skin was ashen. Gray. His eyes were black, but not empty. Full. Overflowing with something. Old and knowing and hungry. He wore a tattered onesie. Faded blue, smudged with dirt. The same one I remembered from baby photos. Eli, he cooed. I waited. Moose positioned himself between us. Shoulders tense. Teeth bared. The twin tilted his head. You locked me away, he said. But I remember. We used to laugh. Remember the blanket fort? The one in the living room? We watched cartoons all day. I kept your secrets. Even when Mommy was sad. Stepped closer. My knees buckled. Because I did remember a blanket fort. I remembered two voices laughing. Had I made that up? A child's fantasy? Or had I forgotten? Don't you miss me? The twin whispered. I missed you. Every day. I watched you grow up, through the cracks." His smile sharpened. I lived in the cracks. I backed away. Moose barked, savage, protective, louder than I'd ever heard him. The twin flinched, and Moose lunged. He hit the shadow full force, teeth sinking in. They tumbled backward into the mirror-like door, and it shattered on contact. Glass? Water? Something otherworldly sprayed outward and hissed like steam. The shadow shrieked, not in pain, but in rage. Moose clamped down harder, and then the tunnel began to shake. The earth moaned above us. Chunks of dirt fell from the ceiling. The scrawls peeled from the walls as if the space was rejecting itself. I grabbed Moose's hind legs. "Come on! Come with me!" He didn't move, still latched onto the twin who now twisted and thrashed like smoke and bone. "Moose, let go!" He growled, just once, deep and deliberate. Then he did something I never expected. He bit me, right on the arm, not to injure, but to shove me backward, away. He threw me back down the tunnel with a force I didn't know he had left. "No, no!" I screamed, but the tunnel behind me began to cave in. Dirt poured from the ceiling. I scrambled up the slope, sobbing, flashlight dropped and lost somewhere in the darkness. Behind me, I heard one final bark, a war cry, a farewell, and then nothing. The trapdoor slammed shut behind me. I lay on the floor of my bedroom, gasping, clawing at the boards, but it wouldn't open again. Not even a seam left, just smooth wood. No tunnel, no scrawls, just a quiet room with a silent closet. And Moose was gone. We buried him in the backyard under the maple tree, the same spot where he used to sun himself for hours. The vet said there were no signs of trauma, just heart failure. I didn't argue. Let the world believe what it needed to. Mom and I didn't say much at the funeral, just the two of us. A folded blanket, a bowl, a leash no longer needed. But when I placed the photo of Moose and toddler me on the headstone we made from a river rock, Mom put her hand on my shoulder and whispered, "He never stopped protecting you." The house changed after that. The cold spots vanished. The lights no longer flickered. The hallway stopped creaking after midnight. And the closet. It was just a closet now. No sounds, no panel, no hidden space. Still, I didn't sleep well for a while. Every creak made me flinch, every silence felt loaded, until one night I heard it, a soft sound, barely there. Pause. Light, familiar. Padding down the hallway, stopping by my door. I opened it. No one, but the air smelled like sun-warmed fur and peanut butter treats. And I slept through the night for the first time in years. Mom smiled more. She began sorting old photos. She even pulled out a dusty box labeled Isaac. I never asked what was in it. Maybe someday I will. For now, I know he's at peace, wherever there is. And Moose saved me. From something I may never fully understand. From something that wore my face. He gave everything so I could live. So, I could remember who I am. They say dogs have loyalty beyond reason. But Moose had purpose. 17 years of vigilance. One final charge, and not once did he ask for anything in return. I think of him every day. His photo hangs by my bed. Sometimes I whisper goodnight to the empty hallway. Sometimes I hear a tail thump. In reply, Moose died a hero. But the closet? I still don't sleep with it closed. The end.